Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how to use Git properly, and I think that a lot of you guys do not know how to use Git properly, even though you might be using like GitHub Desktop in APCS and that kind of stuff. But that is not legit Git. That is just that is just a wrapper of Git so that it's easy to use and that so you don't have to know what you're doing when you're using it. But actual Git is a lot more powerful, and today we're just going to talk about the right way to use it and what you could do with it. Okay, so what do we want to do? The main thing we want to do with Git, the main problem that it solves, is that we want to get our code online, right? Like, if you don't want to have everything on your computer, because if your computer dies, that's a problem. If you want to use like access it from a different computer, that's a problem. And how are your friends supposed to access it if it's on your computer, right? So Git lets you fix all that problems. And also another good thing about Git that a lot of people don't know is that it lets you manage versions, right? So like I know that a lot of people you want to undo stuff, right? And sometimes your like editor does not store all the undos you could possibly do, and what happens if you want to revert like back a ton of like steps, right? Basically, Git keeps track of every single like state of your project, so you could go back as much as you want, as little as you want. Git lets you do all that good stuff. Okay, so basically, Git is just a tool for doing all of these things. It's a way of storing previous versions and managing collaboration with code. And things that use Git are GitHub, right? GitHub is not equal to Git, but it's a thing that uses Git and makes it easier for you guys to use, and it hosts repositories online. Bitbucket's another option, and Google Cloud source repositories is also an option. Okay. So basically now we're just going to talk about the organization. Now this is the important stuff, so if you guys are interested, please listen to this stuff because this is like what you have to know in order to use it. So first off, a folder that uses Git for version control and collaboration is called a repository. So I'm going to call it a repo, right? So whenever I say repo, it's just talking about the folder that we are sharing. Okay. And it basically manages all the files and subfolders in that folder. And essentially, different versions of a given repository are stored in checkpoints called commits, right? So essentially, let's go to my GitHub, and this is like the CS Club website, right? This right here is the repository, right? You can see that like we have all of the folders here. They're all stored online, and we have like commits here, right? So we could literally go to back to any version of a project. Let's look at this. So you can see, right? Like I could literally click over here, and basically it'll show, okay, I added this one thing, and I know exactly what the code was at that point, right? So essentially, Git lets you keep track of all the previous versions, and it stores all of it online, which is really cool. Okay, so first up, let's make our own repository. So let me open up my terminal. I think I already opened it. Okay, so first we're gonna make our project, right? Let's make our epic project. Actually, we'll call it something legit, CS Club Git demo. How about that? And then we'll go in there. So basically, I just made a folder. I called it CS Club Git demo, and let's add a cool file. Let's say, what should we call it? Epic.txt. Why not? All right, and we'll say a very epic file. Okay. So now, does anybody know how to make this into a Git repository? Right now, it's just a normal folder. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't store any versions. How do we make this into a Git repository? Anybody? Any ideas? How do you make it so that it tracks our progress and stuff? Come on, somebody has to know how to make a Git repository. Nobody? Nobody knows how to use Git? This is so sad. Okay, well, I guess the whole point of this is to show you guys how to use Git. So essentially, if you want to change this into something that stores all your progress, you basically do git init, right? And hooray, it initialized an empty Git repository. And if we ls-a, you can see it created a .git file that basically says, oh, this is a repository. I'm going to keep track of all your versions in this file. Okay. So that's literally all you got to do to make a Git repository. So now let's talk about what we want to do with it, right? So essentially, we want to start committing stuff to a repository, right? We want to actually make changes that are stored somewhere else. And essentially, the way you do that is by committing. So all the committing means is that you're setting a checkpoint that you could go back to, right? So essentially, like you saw like in our website, right? If we go to commits, you can see there's like a bunch of these little checkpoints right here, right? So essentially, I can revert to any of these checkpoints anytime that I want. So essentially, in order to make a commit, right now, everything's on my computer, right? It's not stored in the Git repository, it's in the working area, right? Everything on my computer is in the working area. But in order to put it in the repository, we have to first put it into the staging area, right? That tells Git like which files you want to keep track of, and then you want to put it into the Git repository. So essentially, it's really important that you guys know this because like a lot of people just randomly click buttons on GitHub Desktop and hope that it ends up in the repository, but that is not a good idea, right? you first need to put it in the staging area. Okay, so like, let us do an example, right? So if we do git status, epic.txt is untracked, right? It says untracked, which means it's in the working area, it's not in the staging area. And we first had to put it in the staging area, and then after that we had to commit it so that it keeps track of our progress. So I think that's on the next thing. Okay, let's commit this file onto the repo, right? So if we do git, does anybody know how to add it to the staging area? Any ideas? Nobody knows how to add it to the staging area? Come on. No? Okay. Well, essentially you do git add -a that basically adds all the files in this folder to the Git repository. So we do git add -a, we do git status again. Hooray, you can see it is in the staging area, right? Changes to be committed. Okay, very cool. Now if we want to commit it, we do git commit -m. -m just basically means attach a message to this, and we'll say like initial commit, why not? Alright, very cool. Is that all we wanted to talk about? Git diff. Okay. Well, essentially now we have a checkpoint to go back on, right? So essentially if let's say we go back to the epic.txt that we made, and we add another line, new epic line, okay. Then essentially we could check what we changed since the last checkpoint, right? So git diff epic.txt, and you can see, hooray, it's showing me that since the last commit, I added this one line. Very cool. Okay, so that's why Git is kind of cool, but there's a lot more you could do with it. Okay, so another really important thing to know with Git is, in addition to checkpointing, right, you could keep track of like different versions. You could also make branches, right? So for example, if you and your friend are working on it, you don't want to be working on the exact same files, right? Because one of you changes it and another of you guys change it, and then you're trying to combine them on the same branch. It'll be really messy, right? So essentially, you could make this separate branch. So let's say there's a commit here, you start working on it, right? You do whatever you want. Your friend could do whatever he wants on his own branch, and then you merge it into the main branch. He merges it into the main branch, and everybody's happy, right? You guys didn't have to conflict at all until you guys merge it, and then merging it should be easy. Okay. So essentially the reason why this is useful is so that you could have like one stable version of your code, and then other people could like collaborate on it. So that's why it's useful. So let's make a branch. Okay. So basically just to show you guys what branches are, you do git branch, right? And essentially master is the default branch, right? Everything you do is by default on master. So as you can see, we are on master. How do we make a new branch? Anybody have an idea? No, like any guesses? It's like making a branch. What possible command could make a branch? No idea? This is so sad. Okay, well essentially you could do git branch and then the name of our branch, so we'll call it like my branch. Okay, and now if we do git branch, you can see we're still on master, but we made a new branch. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to change onto that branch so that we're not changing master, right? So let's go to git checkout. That basically says change my branch, and then we go to my branch. Okay, hold up. Okay, so if we do git branch now, you can see we are on my branch. Let's try editing the file. So let's say vim epic.txt, let's add like new my branch line. Okay. Actually, that works. Why not? Okay, so now essentially we'll commit to this branch. Add line. And then essentially if we want to go back to master, well, let me first show you cat epic.txt. You can see the line is there, right? We're on the new branch, we're on my branch, and the line is still there. But if we go back to master, the master branch, what do you guys think will be on the master branch? Okay, this should be an easy question, right? We went to a new branch and then added the line. What do you think is on the master branch? Come on, it's an easy question, people. Anybody? Oh, did someone chat me? Okay, let's see. Yeah, original two lines, exactly, right? So essentially, if we do git checkout master, and then we do cat epic.txt, you could see that. Oh, I forgot to commit the new line. So that is why like it committed. That's why we only went to the original one line, right? So essentially, the only one that we committed to master was that first line, which is why when we go back to master, it'll only be that first line. Okay, so that's not very useful, right? We want to like put our new changes back into master. So essentially, what that is called merging, right? So essentially, if we want to merge the other branch into our current branch, we could do git merge, and we could do my branch. So now what do you guys think will be in epic.txt? If we take the new branch and put it in. Yeah, June, could you message everybody? But yeah, that is right. I don't know what happened, but yeah, all 3 lines is correct. So essentially, if we do cat epic.txt, you can see we got all 3 lines. Very cool. So now, why don't we talk about merge conflicts, which I'm sure everybody loves. So let us go to my branch. Okay, check out my branch. And let's say vim epic.txt. New my branch merge conflictor easy. Okay. And then let's commit that. Okay, so now let us go back to master and add another line. So if we do vim epic.txt, how can we get a merge conflict? Any ideas? So essentially a merge conflict means that like it can't automatically combine the two, right? Because one person changed the file in one way, one person changed the other file in a different way. So essentially, literally, if we just add a new line, how would the program know how to combine the two, right? Because one person changed the file in one way, another person changed it in the exact like same place. So why don't we say new master merge conflictor? Okay, and then let's push that. Commit that. Okay, so now we committed that, and now if we merge it, if we try to merge, git merge in my branch, you can see we got a merge conflict. So now let us look at epic.txt again. All right, so now it changed the file to this, right? So does anybody have an idea how we could resolve the merge conflict? Let's say we wanted both of our lines in the merge, right? Because like both of us did something useful to the file, and we want to keep both of our code. So how do we do that? Any ideas? This is just a text file. These little lines don't mean anything. So how do we resolve this? It is a very easy answer. Any ideas? No? Come on. Okay, well, all you gotta do is you just delete these ones, right? If we want to keep both. If we wanted to not keep both, then you delete one of the two. Up to you. But we delete those things, we save that, and then we look at git status. And you can see it's modified, so if we want to save our, like, resolving the merge conflict, we had to commit it. So git add-a, git commit-m, resolve the merge conflicts. Very cool. Okay, and then essentially we have our other branch just hanging out there, but it's useless because we merged it in. We could delete it now, so we just do git branch-d, my branch, git branch, and hooray, we are left with master with all the changes of all the branches. We are chilling. Very good. Okay. So now, everything is on my computer, right? There's like this doesn't help anybody because I can't collaborate with anyone if everything is on my computer. So a very important distinction is to know what is local and what is remote, right? So a lot of people commit stuff and then they go to school and they're like, wait, why does this computer, why is my code not online? That's because committing doesn't actually put anything online. It just keeps it on your computer. So a very important thing to note is that if you want to access it at school, you got to actually push it to a remote repository. So your local repository is what's on your computer. Remote is what's on GitHub or like any like website that stores your repository online. So does anybody have an idea how we could get our local repository on a remote repository, or what the first step is? Like, what is the first step to putting stuff on a repository or putting anything in anything? What is the first step? Any ideas? No? You basically just gotta create it, right? You first gotta create the remote repository, so let us do that. So all you gotta do is you go to GitHub, you go to your home page, and you click that epic new button, and we're gonna call this a legit name of CS Club Git Demo. All right. We're gonna make it public. Why not? So you guys can see it theoretically, and that should be fine. All right. Okay, so we created our repository, right? Then essentially, now what do we have to do in order to actually put stuff on it, right? Right now they're like separate. How do we connect them? Any ideas? Okay, well, essentially we just gotta connect them. The command is pretty simple, but essentially we do git remote add origin, git remote add origin. Well, first let me show you git remote -v. You can see there's no remote repositories linked with this, right? So essentially we want to link our remote repository so we can push stuff to it. Okay, so all you got to do that is git remote add origin, and then we copy and paste this epic link here. I think most of you guys will end up using HTTPS because that is easier to set up. So if you guys want to do that, do that. But SSH is better technically. So if you guys are setting up your Git account, you should search up how to do that. Okay. So now if we do git remote -v, you can see we could fetch from this remote repository and we could push to this remote repository. So now the last step should be we just push to this repository. So right now you can see there's still nothing in our repository. This is so sad. So all we got to do is we do git push -u origin master. So essentially that says link the branch in our remote repository master to our local master. And if we do that, it'll eventually finish. Very cool. If we refresh here, hooray, epic.txt is in the house. Very cool. Okay, nice. Also, like another thing to note is that if I change stuff in epic.txt, I no longer have to link the branches because they're already linked, right? Did someone have a question? No, okay. So if I just add like new line and we git commit this and we push it, I didn't have to do the -u origin anything. It automatically pushes to the right branch. If we go to here and we go here, you can see we have the new line in there. Very cool. Okay, so now how do we collaborate with somebody else? Now, a lot of people just work on the same master branch and they just push it and they get merge conflicts all the time. The right way, okay, let's first talk about how to get it on your computer, right? Don't download the zip file. It's triggering as heck when people do this, but people just download the zip files and then try to like, I don't know, that's the only way they know how to get the code. But the right way to do it is to clone the repository onto your computer. So, essentially all that means is you're taking somebody else's remote repository and you're copying it onto your computer so that you can push and pull from that. And never work on the same branch. Let us just go through all this fun stuff. Okay, so essentially let's collaborate with ourselves by using best practices. So, what are we gonna do? Let us delete this thing now that we already have it online. We do not need it. So we're doing rm-rf and we're going to do cs club git demo. Very cool. And then we're going to git clone and we could take the link that we have, right? So code, do not click download zip, and we could choose copy this over there. And then you can see that we have CS Club Git demo. Very cool. All right, so we have our CS Club Git demo. You can see that it like still has epic.txt. If we cat epic.txt, it has all the changes that we pushed to the repository. So that's very cool. Now let us try making some changes. And remember, whenever you make a change, you want to make a new branch. So how we do that? We do checkout-b is another way to do it. New branch. How about that? And now we are on a new branch, git branch. We're on a new branch, and now we can make whatever changes we want, right? So let's just theoretically say that we wanted to make like, I don't know, what do we want to make? Let's just change master, right? So we could just say my collaboration line. How about that? Okay. And then we're just going to commit this and push it to our remote repository. So collaboration. Okay, so whoops, we have to link this to something, a remote branch, so new branch. Okay, so now if we go back to here, right, instead of merging it directly into master, you're supposed to do compare and pull request on GitHub. And essentially, the reason why you do this is so that other people can review your code, right? You don't want to just be randomly checking stuff in. You want to be able to assign reviewers if somebody's collaborating with you, right? So I create pull request. Very cool. You can see what files you changed from the master branch, right? And then see there's a button right here. You just click merge pull request and master will get your changes. So that's pretty cool. However, what happens if one of your friends is trolling you and they submitted something beforehand, right? So if we go back to master, get vim epic.txt, my friend's line, okay. And we add that and commit. Okay, so it's gonna check if it can merge. It says, oh, we have a conflict, we can't merge. So essentially, does anybody know what the right way to do this is? How do we resolve the conflicts through on our computer? Any idea? What command do you think will be useful for resolving merge conflicts? Nobody knows? This is so sad. Okay, well, essentially what you gotta do is you go to your own branch. Do not merge into master, merge master into yourself, right? So check out Numa branch. And we do git merge master. Or we can do, yeah, master should be fine. And then we basically get our merge conflict, then we just go to epic.txt, we delete this nonsense, then we git add-a, git commit-m, resolve the merge conflicts, and then we push it. And now if we go back to our pull request, it'll check if it can merge automatically. It can. We merge back into master, right? Then essentially we go to master. Let's look at it. We go over here, and hooray, we have both of our code added to the master, added to the remote repository. Now we could go back to master. We could delete our Numa branch. Okay, so rm or git branch-d Numa branch, and we could now let's look at Epic. Wait, we don't have our collaborated line. So what is the problem here? How do we get our collaborated line? So essentially, we merge online, right? So our local repository does not know what's in the remote repository. So how do we bring remote repository to local? Does anybody have an idea? So if push is for local to remote, what is remote to local? Any ideas? What's the opposite of push, people? Yes, very nice. We do git pull. And then if we just like look at epic.txt after, hooray, we got all our changes from our remote repository, so that was very cool. Okay, very nice. So, I think that should be all of the stuff for our presentation today, but hold up, let me see. Okay, yeah, reminder to give you guys a flag. I think that is mostly what we have, but I put one challenge in the, I put another challenge in the CTF website, so if you guys want to practice using Git, I would recommend you guys do that because a lot of people use Git incorrectly. So if you guys want to learn how to use Git properly and like use all those really cool features, I would recommend doing some practice. But other than that, we are done for today, so unless you have any questions, feel free to dip. But another thing, hash code is coming up, so if you guys are interested, fill your name out in the form. Any other questions for me? Or anything you guys want to know? Okay, well then you guys are free to go.